it is a podcast recording day today, so I thought I would show you my process and how I go about it and how I do my setup. It takes longer to set up, I would say, than it does to actually record a podcast, and even longer to edit a podcast as well. It'll probably take a couple of hours to edit a podcast, depending on how long it is. I'm hoping, well, I have one of my studio lights set up here. I will just flip the camera around and show you. I'll go do. One of my studio lights here. I'm hoping that I don't have to set up a second one, because it gets quite bright when there is two. But it is a very dark, very wet and dreary day today. So I have gotten changed into something suitably knitwear. I don't always, if I'm feeling really lazy, but I put this on. I am not going to change out of my sweatpants though, because I'm not showing below the waist today, so I'm going to stay comfortable. I have brought in all of my project bags with the projects in that I'm going to be showing on the podcast, and some yarny acquisitions. That's my studio lights kit over there. Lit a suitably autumnal candle for in the background because it just looks really pretty, and I even gone and got myself a cup of tea. Very stereotypically podcaster, which, or rather I used to think was a little bit stereotype, but after the last couple of podcasts where I've been talking for quite a long time, I realised there's actually a really good reason for that, because talking non-stop for half an hour or 40 minutes really does make your throat dry. So I have actually made myself a cup of tea today as well. I've just got to set up a camera, and I think everything's about ready to go. I'll check all the light settings and make sure that this light will be bright. It looks pretty bright, maybe a little too bright. I'll see how it goes. This is my preferred spot to podcast from. It's nice and cozy. I'm sitting on the sofa rather than on a chair or on the floor. We've got some interesting stuff going on in the background, and it's not too dark. It can be too dark though if the light's dark in here, but it's not too bad with the studio light. It's looking quite bright. It always looks a little different on the camera screen, and then when I go into editing afterwards it can look completely different again. I often say the colours look different on the camera or on the screen to what they are in real life, and sometimes when I've gone into the editing afterwards, it's actually not that far off. It must be just this screen compared to my computer, I don't know. So maybe at where you're watching from it does look completely different to what it is in real life, I don't know. Just about ready now, and I think I'm just going to go with this light. My fringe drives me crazy. This side of my fringe, it always wants to hang straight and in my eyes constantly, and this side will just, you know, like curl nice, but this side I'm forever faffing with it. But I have photos from when I was at school with no fringe and a hairband, and it's not a good look. My favourite school photo of me, well, not my favourite, but my most amusing school photo of me is from the first year of comprehensive school, secondary school. The equivalent of English year 7, Scottish P7, is it P7? And American, I think, is it middle school? I have no idea. But when you move up to big school at age 11, 12, I have this class for tutor group photograph, homeroom I think it's called in America, and in it we're all like, I'm sitting in the front row, and there's some of the other girls and boys behind me, and everybody's all smiling, and next to me I have a friend who unfortunately passed away a few months afterwards, but she's got a huge grin on her face and her eyes are wide, and there's me sitting there with this look on my face of just stone, just like a statue. And I've got quite dark circles under my eyes, and I already had those as a child. I've always had them, and I look like some Victorian ghost who just carries on at school with all the pupils, and none of them realise that there's this ancient ghost. They just assume she's one of those, because I just look like some, I don't know, some Victorian waif or stray just It's really funny. I will have to try and find it at some point, but I have no idea where the box of photos are to show you. And to be able to show you without showing the other pupils would be tricky, but it is quite amusing. So I've just finished recording the podcast. I am surrounded by yarns, and I've got to really try and not show the patterns and such like, to make sure there's no patterns on the shot, because there are paid for patterns. But I am surrounded by yarns, and I have project bags all over the floor and lighting rig over there, and it's not too bad this time. I don't have that many projects on the needles at the moment. Sometimes it can be a bit chaotic in here, and there can be project bags and fibre that I'm in the middle of spinning and just stuff everywhere. It's not too bad today. If I've not recorded in a while, it can get really messy. So I'm going to pack all my stuff away, put my projects away, and finish my cup of tea, and then probably grab some lunch before I sit down and edit the podcast, which will probably take a good couple of hours. So maybe I'll make some headway on this pair of socks, because that's what I use whilst I'm editing. Socks, small, you know, I can pick up and put down, because when I'm editing when I'm recording, even for vlogging, but mostly for the podcast, I'll record the podcast and I'll either record it all in one take, or maybe it's in 2 takes, because the camera will switch off after a certain amount of time. It will stop recording after a certain amount of time. So I'll record it all, and even when I've made mistakes or lost my words and gone blah 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 blah, I will have to edit those out. So I put everything up onto the program, load all the different pieces of footage, and then I have to start chopping. I believe it's called the rough, some people call it the rough cut of the edit. So you put all your bits of footage in the order you want, and then you start chopping out the beginning and ends of each piece. So the bit where you're faffing around before you start talking, chop it, get rid. The bit at the end when you're faffing around switching off the camera, chop it, get rid. Get rid of all those bits. Then watch them through, each one. Oh, I talked gobbledygook there. Cut that piece of footage in half, chop that bit out, join it back together. And I like to put little, what you call transitions in between them, so they kind of fade ever so slightly between each bit, so there's not like a harsh join. It'd be like a half-second fade or something like that. So then it's join all those bits together once they've all been chopped up, join them all together, add in my intro bit with the music, add in my exit bit with the music, and add any bits of wording on the screen that I need to, where I've forgotten the name of a yarn colour or things like that. All those need to be added up together. If I'm vlogging, I do it ever so slightly different. Again, you do all the rough cut and chopping and stuff. But also I'll add extra music on top of parts of the footage where I'm not actually talking. So if I'm cooking or if I'm driving or things like that, I'll add music in there, so I overlay music as well. So that's why it takes so long. You've kind of got to watch it through, chop all the bits out, then you've got to watch it all the way through, mostly, to check that you haven't missed anything and not everything flows. And that's where I can kind of knit. I can knit, oh, I need to chop that bit out. I can put that down, use my mouse, chop it, put that down, do the edity bit, sew it away again, and carry on knitting. And it's simple, I don't have to think about it. But just staring at the screen, watching yourself talk for however long an episode or a vlog is, you get used to it. But on a podcast which is much longer than a vlog, having some knitting there is a big advantage. And I'm getting really croaky now because I've been talking for so long, so I'm going to switch the camera off for a little bit. So I'm just about set up for doing my editing. If I'm doing the podcast, I usually edit on OpenShot, which I have on my laptop. It gives me a little more flexibility for adding photos overlaid on top of the video. So for example, if I haven't got a garment to hand that I want to show, or a pattern to hand, or if I want to talk about something that I don't have that I can show a photo of, I can overlay a photo on top of the video in open shot. It can be a little bit of a pain, to be honest, sometimes to use, which is why when I'm vlogging I don't actually use this. I have my old laptop underneath here, my very old laptop that lasted for about 6 years before it decided it didn't want to do everything I needed it to do, and I got this one last year. So my old laptop has Windows Movie Maker on it, which you can't get anymore for Windows 10, but it used to have Windows 8 on that, so I still have Movie Maker and it still works, fortunately, and I use that for vlogging. It's simpler and it's quicker and it's easier to use because I don't generally overlay photos or do anything fancy with my vlogs, so I'm able to use that. And that laptop's usually upstairs, lives in the office for things like packaging orders for labelling parcels and things like that, and printing things off. So I brought it downstairs through Vlogtober so that I can edit my vlogs on it as well. But for editing the podcast I will use OpenShot, which I've just realised I need to update, but it's going to have to wait. So I've transferred the videos over to my laptop. I will just put them in, start doing the rough cut, and I will sit here with my knitting and get the video edited ready for uploading tonight.